The Midnight Rider of Route 23. In the fog-draped streets of Edinburgh, Scotland, where ancient cobblestones meet modern chaos, there exists an urban legend whispered by taxi drivers, late-night revelers, and sleepless insomniacs, the Phantom Bus No. 23. Unlike ordinary buses, this one appears only after midnight, its headlights cutting through the mist like ghostly lanterns, its engine silent as a tomb. Those who've glimpsed it swear it's driven by a shadowy figure in a vintage driver's uniform, his face obscured by a cap pulled low. But the true horror lies not in the bus itself, but in its passengers, and where they end up. The Legend of the Cursed Driver. The story begins in 1954, when Bus Route 23 was a bustling line connecting Edinburgh's Old Town to the outskirts. On a frigid November night, veteran driver Alistair McDougall was assigned the final shift. Witnesses claimed he seemed agitated, muttering about voices in the fog, and a child laughing in the back seat. At 11:45 p.m., McDougall radioed dispatch, his voice trembling, "They're all here. The ones from the papers. They won't let me stop." Moments later, the bus vanished. Search parties scoured the route for days. The bus was found abandoned on the edge of Greyfriars Kirkyard, its engine cold, its seats empty. McDougall was never seen again. The official report blamed fog-induced disorientation, but locals noticed odd details. The bus's destination sign read, "Nowhere," and the fare box overflowed with tickets stamped 1954, but dated decades earlier. The disappearances. Over the years, sightings of the Phantom Bus escalated, always tied to tragedy. 1972, a young couple, hitchhiking near Arthur's Seat, claimed a creaky old bus stopped for them. They boarded, but when the driver turned, he had no eyes, just black holes. The bus vanished mid-journey. The couple reappeared a week later, wandering the Royal Mile, their hair turned white, babbling about endless tunnels, and passengers who never blinked. 1999. University student Clara Reid vanished after texting her roommate, got on the 23. Drivers acting weird. There's a little girl in a blue coat crying, why won't anyone help her? Clara's backpack was found days later at a bus stop, filled with 1950s coins and a ticket stub marked, "One Way." 2015. Security cameras captured footage of bus number 23 rolling past Edinburgh Waverley Station at 2:47 a.m., a time when no buses run. The film showed blurred faces pressed against the windows, mouths open in silent screams. The driver, a tall figure in a vintage uniform, stared directly at the camera, but his face flickered like static. The survivor's account. The only living passenger to escape the bus is Malcolm Greer, a night shift bartender who claims he boarded it in 2008. In a 2010 interview before he disappeared under mysterious circumstances, he described, "The air smelled like rust and wet earth. The driver never spoke, just pointed to a seat. Everyone on board was wrong. A man in a World War II uniform, soaked head to toe. A woman humming a lullaby, her neck bent at an impossible angle. And that girl in the blue coat, always crying. When I tried to get off, the doors sealed shut. The driver laughed, a sound like nails on glass, and said, 'You'll ride, till the petrol runs out.' I jumped through a window as the bus sped toward the Forth Bridge. When I hit the pavement, it was gone." The unanswered questions. 1. The fuel that never runs out. The Phantom Bus appears across decades, its license plate shifting ED 23, ED 54, ED. Mechanics who inspected the abandoned 1954 bus found its tank full of a thick, tar-like substance that reeked of sulfur. 2. The crying girl. Every account mentions the child in the blue coat. Archives reveal a cold case. In 1949, 8-year-old Fiona Muir vanished near Route 23's original path. Her coat, pale blue.
3. McDougall's fate. Was the driver a victim or something darker? Diaries uncovered in his attic revealed ramblings about making amends, and a debt paid in passengers. 4. The destination. Where does the bus go? Survivors mention tunnels, fog-choked forests, and a terminal marked *, Terminus Tenebris, *, Darkness Terminal. The final ride in 2020. A paranormal investigation team rigged a decommissioned Bus 23 with cameras and GPS, hoping to lure the Phantom. At midnight, their livestream showed the vehicle engulfed in sudden fog. The team screamed as shadows flooded the aisle, the driver's gloved hands seizing the wheel. The GPS traced the bus speeding 150 miles per hour toward the coast, then blinking off the map. The crew was never found. All that remained was a single frame from the feed. The driver, his cap finally lifted, revealing a skull with glowing hollow eyes. And beside him, the faint outline of a girl in blue. Epilogue. The fair to this day, Edinburgh's council denies Route 23 ever existed. But locals know better. They avoid empty buses after dark, and if a vintage double-decker rumbles past with a flickering 23 sign, they whisper a warning. Don't meet the driver's stare. Don't touch the tickets. And whatever you do, don't sit next to the girl. Asterisk. Some say the bus is a purgatory on wheels, collecting souls to atone for McDougal's sins. Others believe Fiona Muir's ghost lures P-way home. But one truth remains. When the fog rolls in and the streets fall silent, you'd better pray.
The whispers of Blackthorn Manor. In the mist-shrouded valleys of rural Cornwall, nestled between jagged cliffs and skeletal trees, stood Blackthorn Manor, a decaying relic of the Gilded Age. Its turrets clawed at the stormy sky, and its windows, shattered and hollow, seemed to watch like the eyes of a long-dead beast. The locals of the nearby village of Hollow's End spoke of it in hushed tones, crossing themselves whenever its silhouette darkened the horizon. For over a century, the manor had been cursed by a mystery that defied explanation, the vanishing of Eleanor Blackthorn, and the whispers that refused to die. The legend of Eleanor. In 1925, Eleanor Blackthorn, the young heiress to the family's fortune, hosted a lavish masquerade ball to celebrate her engagement. Guests arrived in carriages adorned with black roses, their faces hidden behind silver masks. But as midnight struck, the music ceased. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the halls. By dawn, Eleanor had vanished. Her fiancé, Charles Whitcomb, was found dead in the library, his throat slit, a single black rose clutched in his hand. No trace of Eleanor remained, save for her diary, its final entry scribbled in frantic ink: "He is here. The man without a face." The police dismissed it as a lover's quarrel gone awry, but the villagers knew better. They claimed Eleanor's ghost lingered, her spectral figure glimpsed in upper windows, her voice carried on the wind, pleading, "Find him, find the faceless man." The skeptic's curse. In 1987, Drive. Lillian Hart, a historian specializing in Victorian-era scandals, arrived in Hollow's End. She scoffed at the superstitions, determined to debunk the myth and document the manor's architecture. Armed with a tape recorder and a camcorder, she ventured inside with two local guides. The first night passed quietly. But on the second drive, Hart's voice crackled over the radio to her team outside. "There's someone here. In the walls. I can hear him breathing." The line went dead. When rescuers broke down the door, they found the guides unconscious in the foyer, their hair turned snow white. Dr. Hart was gone. Her camcorder, recovered from the ashes of the hearth, held a single clip, blurred footage of a shadowy figure, faceless and elongated, dragging something down a corridor that didn't appear on any blueprint. The boy who came back. The most chilling account emerged in 2003. A teenager, Finn McCarthy, dared his friends to spend the night in Blackthorn Manor on a dare. Only Finn returned, catatonic and clutching a rusted locket engraved with Eleanor's initials. When he finally spoke weeks later, he rasped a single phrase: "She's trapped in the mirrors." Investigators found no evidence of foul play, but Finn's parents swore their son had changed. He'd wake screaming, clawing at his reflection, begging to let her out. One morning, they found his bedroom empty, the window open, and his footprints in the mud outside leading straight to the manor's gates, where they vanished. The unanswered questions. To this day, Blackthorn Manor stands, its secret stubbornly intact. Skeptics argue that the disappearances are coincidences, runaways, accidents, or hoaxes. Yet locals insist the truth is woven into the manor's very stones. 1. The faceless man. Who, or what, was the entity Eleanor feared? Some speculated jealous suitor, others a demon summoned by the Blackthorn family's rumored occult dabbling. 2. The mirror's every vanished soul had encountered one of the manor's antique mirrors in their final hours. Finn's locket was traced to Eleanor's jewelry box, which had been sealed in a vault since 1925. 3. The whispers visitors report hearing their names hissed from empty rooms, and phantom piano notes drifting from the ballroom, always the same waltz Eleanor danced before her disappearance.
Epilogue. The letter in 2020, an anonymous package arrived at the Hollow's End archives. Inside was a water-stained letter dated October 31, 1925, the night of the ball. In elegant script, it read, "Dearest sister, forgive me. I could not let him take you too. The bargain is struck, but the mirrors are not to be trusted. He walks in their glass, and he is hungry. Burn this. Never speak my name again. E." The signature matched Eleanor's handwriting. But Eleanor Blackthorne had no sister. Blackthorne Manor remains a monument to the unknown. Its gates are chained, its halls silent, yet on moonless nights, villagers swear the shadows move, and the
feast of the forgotten, the haunting of the hollow plate. In the fog-drenched port town of Ravensshade, where the sea closet, jagged cliffs and salt-stained alleys hum with forgotten lore, there stands a derelict building that locals avoid even in daylight. Known as the Hollow Plate, this once opulent restaurant is now a carcass of cracked stained glass and rusted iron gates. Its windows, boarded in weeping ivy, hide a curse that has gnawed at the town for over a century, a mystery tied to vanished diners, a phantom chef, and meals that hunger for more than mere appetite. The grand opening tragedy, 1903. In 1903, the Hollow Plate was the jewel of Ravensshade, owned by the enigmatic chef Alaric Voss. A culinary genius with a reputation for sourcing exotic ingredients, Voss promised a dining experience beyond mortal imagination. On opening night, the wealthy elite arrived in carriages, lured by rumors of dishes that could resurrect lost memories or make hearts beat anew. The feast began with oysters that glowed like moonlight and wine that shimmered with bioluminescent algae. But as the final course, a blackened soufflé dubbed the Void's Embrace was served, the dining room doors sealed shut. By dawn, the guests, staff, and Voss himself had vanished. Only the table settings remained, plates smeared with an oily residue, silverware twisted into spirals, and a single note scrawled in Voss's hand, "The guests are now the meal." The police found no bodies, no blood. The case was closed as mass hysteria, but fishermen swore they heard laughter echoing from the restaurant's cellar for weeks. The diner who returned, 1951. The Hollow Plate remained shuttered until 1951, when a drifter named Silas Pike broke in seeking shelter. He claimed to have found the restaurant lit by phantom candlelight, tables set with rotting food that still steamed. A shadowy figure in a chef's hat beckoned him to sit. Silas fled after taking a single bite of a rancid-smelling stew. He described the taste as, like swallowing a scream. Hours later, he was found wandering the docks, his tongue blackened and teeth missing, babbling about faces in the broth, and a door in the pantry that breathes. He died days later, his autopsy revealing his stomach was filled with seawater, kelp, and a human molar not his own. The pantry door he mentioned was never found. The YouTube Cruise livestream 2017. In 2017, a paranormal investigation team, Spectre Seekers, broke into the Hollow Plate to livestream their exploration. The footage showed intact chandeliers, tables set with moldering feasts, and a kitchen stocked with rusted tools. At 3:15 a.m., the audio picked up the sound of knives sharpening. The camera panned to the kitchen, where a translucent figure in a 1900s chef's uniform stood, butchering an unseen carcass. The team's leader, Mara, screamed, "It's not meat, it's moving." The livestream cut to static. Rescuers found the crew's equipment intact, but the members were gone. The SD card held a final clip, a close-up of Mara's face pressed against the camera, whispering, "He's still cooking. Don't eat the salt." The unanswered questions. 1. The ingredients. What did Voss truly serve? Lab tests on residue from the 1951 incident revealed DNA from unidentifiable marine species and human remains. 2. The salt. Survivors mention a shimmering black salt served in bone-white shakers. Those who tasted it claimed to hear voices, and later vanished. 3. The pantry door. Silas and the Spectre Seekers described a door that wasn't there before. Maps show no cellar beneath the Hollow Plate, yet fishermen swear they've seen Voss's ghost hauling crates from the cliffs at low tide. 4. The feasters. Fate. Where are the missing diners? Locals fear they're trapped in a cycle of eternal hunger, forced to relive the feast as both diners and dishes. The Survivor's Secret 2022. In 2022, an elderly woman named Edith Kane confessed on her deathbed that the soup showed me my mother's funeral. The wine tasted like my first kiss. But the main course, it was my own face on the plate, screaming. Boss stood in the corner, laughing. He wasn't human. His eyes were black pearls, and his teeth, too many teeth. Edith claimed she escaped by refusing dessert. As she fled, she heard Boss hiss, "You'll be back." Everyone hungers in the end. Epilogue. The last reservation. Today, the hollow plate's windows remain dark, but locals swear they've seen flickering lights and smelled roasting meat on foggy nights. Some receive cryptic letters in the mail, embossed with the restaurant's logo, a hollow plate encircled by serpents, inviting them to a reopening. Those foolish enough to RSVP vanish without a trace. In 2023, a Reddit post titled, "I ate at the hollow plate," went viral. The user described a meal of butter that melted into maggots, and wine that burned like saltwater. Their final update read, "He's here." The chef. He says dessert is. The account was deleted minutes later. Image prompts for key scenes. 1. The 1903 feast. A grand dining room frozen in time. Guests in Edwardian garb slumped over plates of glowing, grotesque food. Chef Boss stands in the kitchen doorway, his silhouette unnaturally tall, eyes glowing like embers. 2. Silas's last meal. A drifter at a splintered table, spooning black stew into his mouth as faces swirl in the broth. The shadow of a chef's knife looms on the wall behind him. 3. The livestream kitchen. A ghostly Chef Boss hacks at a writhing mass on a butcher's block, his apron stained with luminescent fluid. Behind him, a door pulses faintly, seaweed tangled around its frame. 4. The pantry door. A warped wooden door deep in the cliffs, half submerged in tidewater. Crates labeled, "Boss and Company," spill rotting fish and human hair. 5. The final invitation. A modern kitchen table at midnight. A letter lies open beside a plate of rancid meat, the hollow plate logo dripping black ink. In the window's reflection, Chef Boss smiles, his mouth stretching ear to ear. The hollow plate's curse remains unsolved. Is Chef Boss a vengeful spirit, a demon, or something older than the sea itself? And what lurks behind the pantry door? Raven Shade's tides whisper one warn, never taste the salt. Never stay for dessert.